Okay, we'll go ahead and begin this month's session of the Planning, Programming, and Zoning Commission meeting. First item on our agenda is the approval of the October 6, 2015 agenda. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Carol and seconded that we approve the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes and we have an agenda. Next is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on September 1st, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Sue and seconded that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting on September 1st, 2015. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. And the minutes are accepted. Okay. Next is to receive and place on file the financial report for August 2015.
This is Anderson with staff. This is our budget through August 31st, 2015, which puts us at about 16.6% of the way through the new fiscal year for us. You can see that the majority of the information or spent items are around 17% or a little higher, a little lower. Again, some of these things at the beginning of the year are paid all the way up front for insurance, for things like that. Other revenue items are obviously early, and we expect to be right on course as we go along.
Okay, is there any questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, we'll receive and place on file the financial report for August 2015. Next on our agenda is oral presentations. At this time, I would ask if anyone would have an item that is not on the current agenda for today, but they would like to present that, please come to the podium, state your name and address, please. And hearing none.
Madam Chair, I have something I'd like to bring up. I need some clarity. I tried calling the staff this afternoon, and I'm sure they were busy. So I have this question, and it concerns the that vacant lot at Ainsborough and Upton Avenue that we dealt with. And I looked back through the papers, and August 10th, the City of Waterloo applied to rezone the property. And then here on September 1st, the commission voted unanimously to rezone the property. But on September 8th, the city council didn't vote to buy the property until September 8th, so a week later. And I'm just concerned, is the city exposed in any way that we did something improper, meaning that the city rezoned a piece of property that they didn't own? And could it cause a problem later on?
Well, especially if I can add that the reason that the whole issue came before us was because those two gentlemen were asking for it to be rezoned, and we turned them down, and then it came around again. And I know this family. I tried to contact them because I wanted to talk with them about this situation, and unfortunately they are in Bosnia right now, so I wasn't able to talk with them. But I just felt really uncomfortable about how the whole thing was handled, at least from my vantage point, because we only get the information that you guys give to us, and I have a feeling that there's a whole nother side of the story that we've not gotten, and that's why I wanted to talk with them personally to find out how was this handled, who approached you to ask if you'd like to sell your property to the City of Waterloo.
They asked us to buy it.
They came to you
Yes.
and asked you.
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't know what else you want me to talk.
How
Prior
would
to
they
the
know?
planning commission
excuse me,
meeting, the city council had an executive session where they proceeded, or they recommended to staff to move ahead with acquiring the property at the request of the current owners. So our steps to rezone it were all in efforts that as property owners, we will want to flip the property, obviously, for residential and commercial as it's rezoned. In terms of the city taking any improper steps, because we didn't own it yet, the city council actually has the power to rezone anyone's property if they choose to. It takes a higher vote. The other thing is the planning commission is a recommending body, so we haven't officially rezoned it until after we owned it by action of the city council, so it'll all end up being in the right sequence at the end. And again, we're doing this at the request after negotiating and talking with the owners. They were frustrated that this was not approved for rezoning by the city. There were some right-of-way issues on the far eastern end that the city council wanted to deal with the property owners. The property owners did not want to sell the right-of-way on the eastern end, which is an alley that was basically built in the wrong way or moved in the wrong location at some point. So it's about 16 to 20 feet of the whole site. They did not want to sell that independent. They wanted to sell the whole site because of their frustration.
This is Morrison. As I expressed last month, my concern was we had previously voted no to that particular zoning step twice. And I felt like it was very uncomfortable that the city, by way of this board, said no twice. And then as soon as the city owns it, we changed the zoning to what they previously requested. So I was really uncomfortable with the way we handled last month.
This is Schrader with staff. I just wanted to add that we did have a purchase agreement in place at the time that the city of Waterloo submitted that rezone request to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we have accepted rezoning applications from property owners that have a purchase agreement on a piece of property. As Noel said, the city can rezone on its own motion, regardless if it is buying the property, is not buying the property, is in the middle of buying the property. And the other, it is a recommendation, and it hasn't. The rezone has not gone on to City Council yet. The only other thing I would add to the comment on the same request, their request was to rezone it to C2 commercial. We are proposing or in the process of rezoning it to CP planned commercial, and received no opposition from the neighborhood that I am aware of. We were in direct talks with the property owner directly to the east. That was the most vocally opposed to the rezone request to just a straight C2 commercial classification, and our proposal was to go to a CP planned commercial, which is a site plan specific. Any use that's going to go in there will have to go through that site plan amendment approval process. So we think it was a sizable different request that addressed the concerns of the neighborhood.
That's helpful, because on the face, it citizens who don't know all of the details behind it, and our staff report that we were given didn't explain, that there was a purchase agreement. I think there was a lot more that could have been said that would have helped all of us understand what was going on. So thank you for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Are there any other oral presentations at this time? Okay. Our first order under new business is a hearing. It's a rezone site plan amendment request by San Martin Management Incorporated to rezone 3.77 acres from C2 Commercial District to C2CZ Conditional Zoning Commercial District to allow for a storage warehouse and related shipping activities located at 4107 Hammond Avenue and 1051 Southtown Drive. This begins on page 1 of your packet. Staff report. There's no...
I'd make a motion to open the hearing.
Sorry.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Davis and seconded that we open this hearing. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Who seconded that?
Davis.
Thank you.
Davis made a motion.
Yeah,
Buckles.
Stevens.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't we have to receive and place on file the statement?
Yes, I am
Jump the
sorry.
gun. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. At this time, we should receive and place on file a statement of verification signed by Patty McGee stating, I, Patty McGee, do hereby certify that a copy of the attached letter and cite were mailed to each individual on the attached list by regular mail on September 22nd, 2015. Can we have a motion to receive and place this notice on file?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Carol and seconded that we receive and place this notice on file. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. And the motion passes. Staff report.
This is Miller with staff. The applicant is requesting a rezone to the property at 4107 Hammond Avenue and 1051 South Town Drive to bring the property into compliance with its current use as a storage warehouse and shipping for shipping activities. The proposed rezone of the property would not appear to have a negative impact on the property and surrounding area. A portion of the property has been used as storage warehouse and for shipping activities since 2012, and the applicant is proposing to expand the use into the remainder of the property. The site in question is Zone C2 Commercial District and has been zoned as such since the adoption of the ordinance 2496 on May 26, 1969. All surrounding properties, or land and properties, are zoned C2 as well. The proposed rezone area consists of 3.77 acres of lands located at 4107 Hammond Avenue and 1051 Southtown Drive, near the south or northwest corner of Hammond Avenue and Southtown Drive. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to bring it into compliance with its current use as a storage warehouse and to allow for the expansion of the existing use into the remainder of the building formerly occupied by Goodwill. The applicant has indicated that medical supplies are stored within the building and that it will be continued to use so as such. The building currently sees 3 to 4 delivery box trucks per day and 2 to 4 semis per day, and the applicant has indicated that those numbers may increase slightly with the growing business, but does not expect a significant change of truck and semi traffic generated from the expansion. The current business has been located at 1051 Southtown Drive since approximately 2012. The applicant is now looking to expand their warehouse into the adjacent address of 4107 Hammond Avenue, which is attached to their current location. Therefore, staff recommends that the request to rezone the property from C2 Commercial District to C2CZ Conditional Zoning Commercial District be approved for the following reasons. The rezone area in question can be served by existing utilities in the area. The site in question does not appear to have a negative impact on the area, and subject to the following condition, that the use of the site shall be limited to a storage warehouse and related shipping activities and any use permitted in the C2 Commercial District.
Okay, any questions for staff?
Yes, Mrs. Thornsberry. It says here on page 2 that the storage warehouse is not permitted under C2,
Correct.
and yet they've been doing that since 12, apparently.
Correct.
And in your recommendation, isn't there something that we have to say that we're allowing them to go against code?
That's what the rezoning is, that's what the request is for, rezoning it to the C2CZ, so we can allow for anything that's permitted in the C2 Commercial District and also the storage that is already in place.
Okay, so then I have a question for you, Mr. Anderson. In the conversation about that Upton property last time, Chair asked you if couldn't we make the property C1CZ? And you said that
Which property was that?
this was the
Ainsborough
Ainsborough
Upton.
Upton property. And in the minutes, you said that the city really doesn't like to use this zoning designation anymore and instead uses CP, which is site plan specific. And on the YouTube, the actual words were CZ is conditional zoning, and for over 20 years, the courts have frowned upon using this CZ zoning because they see it as spot zoning. And CP is used more as a buffer. And so it's interesting that was in the minutes in this package, and then we're going for CZ zoning here. So I need some clarity.
Sure. Obviously, there's different cases with every site. The CP, we believe, is a cleaner site designation, especially when you have vacant land, because you're looking at, in the case of Ainsborough and Upton, we specifically had neighborhood opposition to it for specific uses, and so therefore, the site plan amendment process of going back and redeveloping that as vacant land will give the neighbors notification every time. The CZ is generally frowned upon specifically for vacant land because it's seen as spot zoning because they've been putting it in places. When you're dealing with existing buildings I think the CZ offers a little bit more flexibility because obviously you can see in this case, this is kind of a heavier retail type area. This would still allow all the C2 uses of that, so other retail uses could go in there if they change it in the future, but it also allows that one extra use of the CZ for this warehousing type use. So it's a little more flexible for a built-up environment like this.
So in this particular case that we're dealing with right now, they have been using it as a storage warehouse since 12, which was out of code. It shouldn't have been a warehouse
That is correct.
under the, and is there any,
Now, there's a little bit of, I don't know the exact details of how much space they were using for warehousing as they expanded it. Of course, the C2 use allows, every use allows a certain percentage of storage space.
40% or
And
something.
sometimes it's defined in certain districts, others it's just kind of there as a accessory use. And so I don't know how much they've grown since 2012, if it started out as a small space and continues to grow, and that's where they're coming forward to us today. But generally, as a warehousing, as a principal use would not be allowed in the C2.
I also have a question. Do you have any idea where the semis and delivery trucks have at their access point? The reason I ask is if you have ever tried to get into around the corner from off of Hammond into either Lone Star or over to the hotel, the parking is really tight. And I just wanted to make sure that the access point isn't going to be over in that area, but it would be more around the corner off of the Southtown.
I don't know if Chris Wendland's here on behalf of the applicant. He may have better information on exactly the truck route.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Wendland, attorney for San Martin Management. As I understand it, the primary point of access is that Southtown entrance at the southeast corner of the property.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
And that's the intended primary point going forward as well.
Super. Just wanted to make sure that we weren't getting ourselves into some traffic headaches,
Yeah,
so.
no, that's a valid point.
Okay, thank you.
I'm happy to answer any other questions someone may have, by the way.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, at this time, for those of you who wish to speak for or against this request, we would ask that you please come to the microphone and identify yourself by name and address. The members of the commission should also identify themselves before speaking to the microphones.
Want a motion to close the hearing?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall, I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Davis and second that we close the hearing. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. I'll turn it over to the commission now for final thoughts, discussion, and/or a motion. I think my only comment, this is Tackett, was along your lines when I saw the conditional zoning that was placed in here. So that I'm clear for the record, we use conditional zoning only if there's existing buildings, CP if it's a vacant lot, correct? Because I was wondering too, so that there's consistency and then we aren't just, I guess, just putting it here and there for whatever reason.
I would say that would be the general case as to how we would normally recommend. Now, granted, there's always going to be some instances where it may make sense to do it a little bit different again. I mean, the conditional zoning is specifically a zoning district that is set up to allow for another use from a higher zoning classification. So in this case, where they're using it strictly for C2 type uses plus one M1 or industrial classification use for warehousing, it makes sense to use a CZ, especially in the built-up environment. That's not to say we couldn't use CZ in a blank setting. It's just normally the CP would work a little bit nicer there.
And I guess along that, so I'm clear, because I know when we were going through the packets, the zoning package, kind of looking at zoning. With a CP zoning, that requires a sign amendment, and do the neighbors get notified versus a CZ where there's no notification required, or is there still notification?
So the CZ would also require a site plan amendment type process if they were to change it. Obviously, if they were to decide we're not gonna have any warehousing out here anymore and we're gonna put in a subway, the way that it is written, any C2 use or the warehousing is usable, so they would not have to come back for that type of a change. It would only be a change that was not approved as it is, if that makes any sense.
Sorry, what is the main difference, just in general, between CP and CZ? What's the main difference between those two?
CP is specifically site plan specific for layout, setbacks. There's a little bit of flexibility in how things can be laid out in there, but the CP is normally for larger sites where we're concerned about how it's going to develop over time, where there's easements, multi-story phases or multi-phases, multi-story buildings that could occur that would be different from the first phases. So the CP is more of, like I said, more of a new construction type setup. The CZ is more of a adjustable type zoning district to where we definitely don't want to rezone this area M1 industrial, but by using the C2 CZ, we can allow one industrial use, which we think would fit in with the general layout of the area.
So in other words, at CP, it's more about the building. It's not so much allowing a different use per se. It's more about the structure and how the structure is being used. But a conditional zoning will allow you to add on.
Correct.
This is Schrader with staff. I just wanted to add one other comment to the CZ versus CP. Also, the CP has a minimum lot size. It varies depending on if it's in the core of the city within the Cura area as one minimum lot size, and if it's outside that, it has a different minimum lot size. So you could have a situation where a request doesn't meet the lot size for a CP, so it has no other alternative. So it could be a vacant lot, and we generally prefer not to do a CZ, but it doesn't meet the minimum lot size for a CP. So then its only other alternative would be to do a rezone request to like a straight M1, which may not make sense for the lot. So we might not really like always using a CZ on a vacant lot, but sometimes there aren't a lot of other alternatives too. And that can run risk of what might get determined by a court as spot zoning.
This is
So-
Go ahead.
So I guess my natural progression would be, why not put those explanations into your staff analysis? Because it helps us to understand why you are making the recommendation that you are. And we don't have to make suppositions. We can read and see, oh, they're going this direction because of X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
Is that,
We could definitely try.
Yeah. This is Thornsberry. I have looked, and I can't see where it says warehousing in C2. It's not in there. I don't know.
Correct. It's not in there. If it was in there, then we wouldn't need this rezone request. It's in the M1. It actually used to be in the C3, but the C3 is reserved for the central business district, and we didn't really want warehousing in the C3 either. So in the 2011 overhaul of the zoning ordinance, we actually moved it from the C3 to the M1. So this site zone C2, straight warehousing is not a principal permitted use. So to allow that use, we either need to rezone it to M1 or an alternative such as the C2CZ proposed.
Okay, so in the staff recommendation, is there something that is needed here to say that if we agree to make it a C2CZ, that warehousing is allowed?
Believe it
Because
does
it's,
that.
It should be under
no,
the conditions, the use of the site should be limited to a storage warehouse and related shipping activities and any use permitted in the C2 commercial district.
what she just
She
said?
just
that
said
it
it's not
doesn't-
under C2.
It doesn't, it's not under C2.
But the warehouse covers it. So the
We can put comma after activities and any use permitted in the C2 district.
yes, that would help.
This is Tackett. I guess my question is, isn't that being redundant? Isn't it already zone C2?
Yes, if it's Z2, but they can't have a warehouse.
Right, I
And
know
so
it
they're doing
says,
a warehouse, and that's why they have to have a CZ.
yeah, I guess
This-
the wording seems confusing. And
This is Schrader with
permitted.
staff. You could argue that it is a little bit redundant, but it's actually helpful for the property owners. If you don't have that wording, then essentially you've zoned it conditionally for warehouse. That use only. Any other use would have to go through a site plan amendment. So when you word it in a way that says warehouse, which is the use above the current C2 zoning that you already have, and any use already permitted. They're already permitted any use listed in the C2 district. So we're not trying to take that away. We're trying to allow one additional use. So when we word it that way, warehouse, which is an M1 use, and any use permitted in the C2, that makes it clear that they can change to any C2 use without going through a site plan amendment. But if they propose to change it to a different M1 use, they would have to come back through the site plan amendment process.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, turn over for a motion or discussion.
Buckles, I propose that we approve the request by San Martin Management Incorporated to rezone 3.77 acres from C2 Commercial District to C2, C7 Conditional Zoning Commercial District to allow for a storage warehouse and related shipping activities located at 4107 Hammond Avenue and 1051 Southtown Drive, subject to the following conditions, that the use of the site shall be limited to a storage warehouse and related shipping activities and any use permitted in the C2 commercial district.
Hey, is there a second?
Sorry, did you mean to say CZ?
CC.
You said
You
C7.
said C7.
I
C7.
just see that. Oh, CZ.
All right, I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Steve and seconded that we approve the request to rezone from
I was like, what's
C2
C7?
Commercial District to C2 CZ Conditional Zoning Commercial District with the following condition that the use of the site shall be limited to a storage warehouse and related shipping activities and any use permitted in the C2 Commercial District. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Okay, the time now is 4:31. Our next item on the agenda is another hearing. It's a request by Community United Child Care Centers Incorporated for a site plan amendment in the R1CZ Conditional Zoning 1 and 2 Family Residence District for the purpose of constructing an 8,717 square foot addition to the existing building located at 3610 Amesboro Avenue. That begins on page 9. And at this time, we should receive and place on file a statement of verification signed by Patty McGee stating, I, Patty McGee, do hereby certify that a copy of the attached letter and site were mailed to each individual on the attached list by regular mail on September 22nd, 2015. And may I have a motion to receive and place this notice on file?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Sue and seconded that we receive and place this notice on file. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. And the motion passes. Staff report.
This is Western with staff. The applicant is requesting to build a 8,700 square foot addition to the existing child care facility to provide additional classrooms, play areas, kitchen, and storage space. Allowing the construction of an addition to the north side of the existing property along Ridgemont Road would not appear to have a negative impact on vehicular and or pedestrian traffic in the area. The proposed addition is located along Ridgemont Road, which is classified as a local street. Amesboro Avenue borders the eastern side of the site, and it is classified as a minor arterial. Allowing the construction of an addition to the north side of the existing property would not appear to have a negative impact upon vehicular and pedestrian traffic in the area. In 2013, the property was rezoned from R1 Single Family Residence District to R1CZ Conditional Zoning to legalize the existing daycare and to limit the uses on the property to protect the residential uses surrounding the property. The conditional zoning district requires all new developments upon the property would need to go through a review process through the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. Surrounding land uses and their zoning are as follows. To the north, Cedar Valley Community Church, Zone R3 Multiple Residence District. To the south, Selenic Park and Single Family Housing, Zone R1, 1 and 2 Family Residence District. To the east, there's Single Family Housing, R1, 1 and 2 Family Residence District. And to the west, there's Single Family Housing, Zoned R1, 1 and 2 Family Residence District. The surrounding area is comprised of mostly single-family housing with the exception of the site in question and Cedar Valley Community Church to the north. Most of the housing in the area was constructed in the 1960s to 1980s. The request to build the 8,700 square foot addition would not require any additional buffering or screening. As far as the drainage is concerned, the construction of the addition would not appear to have a negative impact upon drainage in the area. The applicant has submitted a storm water drainage plan, and it is being reviewed by the engineering department. No portion of the property is located within the floodplain. Utilities. There is a private 8-inch sanitary line that serves the site in question from the north. There is a 4-inch drain tile located in Ridgemont Road and Amesboro Avenue, and there is also a 12-inch storm sewer located within Amesboro Avenue to the east. The future land use map designates this area as parks, open spaces, schools, airport, government facilities, and public areas, as it was a school-owned property previously. The future land use map is used as a guide when it comes to land use development. Staff feels that although the site is not in conformance with the future land use map and comprehensive plan, it would appear that the use would fit well with the surrounding area, as the daycare has existed for some time without any known negative impacts to the surrounding area. The property was rezoned to R1CZ in 2013 when the Waterloo Community Schools sold the property to bring the property into compliance with its current use as a child care facility. Child care facilities are not permitted in the R1 1 and 2 Family Residence District, and it is not a permitted use until the R3 Multiple Residence District. During the rezoning of the property in 2013, staff received a petition from surrounding neighbors that noted that they do not object to the daycare center at the former West Ridge school site, as well as not objecting to a limited expansion of the building for daycare use. However, neighbors were concerned when it was being rezoned to R3 Multiple Family Residence District. If the site were rezoned to R3 Multiple Residence District, it will allow for such uses as multiple family developments, boarding and lodging houses, group homes, and mobile home parks after approval of a special permit from the Board of Adjustment. Therefore, staff recommended that the property be rezoned to R1CZ conditional zoning and 1 and 2 Family Residence District. To address the concerns expressed by the surrounding neighbors. The applicant is now requesting a site plan amendment to allow for the construction of an approximately 87 by 100 or 8,700 square foot addition to the north end of the existing child care facility. Staff has reviewed the request and has determined that the request would continue to be in conformance with the current approved use as a commercial child care facility and would not have a negative impact on the surrounding area. Therefore, staff recommends that the request to construct an 8,700 square foot addition to the north end of the existing child care facility be approved for the following reasons. The site in question would appear to provide sufficient space to meet all required regulations, including setbacks, drainage, landscaping, screening, etc. The site in question can be served by existing utilities in the area, and subject to that the applicant extend sidewalks along all street frontages, which include Amesboro Avenue and Ridgemont Road. Are there any questions for staff?
This is Gustafson. My question is, I drove by this site and I guess I understand the sidewalks are along Ridgemont, but I do not understand the sidewalks on Amesboro because they wouldn't be connected to any other sidewalks.
Well, that's not unusual. There are several developments that are being asked to include sidewalks, regardless if they connect. There are some situations where the connection was so far apart we allowed a variance for that. However, we are trying really hard to connect all of our sidewalks in the city, as you are well aware that there's a lot of missing gaps. So whenever possible, we do require extensions, even though they don't always connect to another portion. And there is sidewalk further north on
Yes.
Amesboro?
Yes.
So eventually, we're going to get that connected.
Okay.
And this
All right.
is,
No, I just wanted to ask because sometimes it looks a little ludicrous when, you have something new that's put in and they have this sidewalk and it like goes to nowhere. And so I just wanted to ask and see if that was
Right.
the rationale that you had.
yep.
This is Flynn, and I wondered what the current size of their current facility is.
Yeah, actually, it's about the same. I believe the existing one was up in upper 7,000s. However, the architect for the project, Steve Trost, is available. He can maybe answer that, but they're almost the same size.
So my somewhat concern is if they are basically doubling their size, then that's going to be a lot more families and children coming in there, and I think the parking lot is limited. And when when this came before the school board a couple years ago, we had some residents come, and they were concerned about a housing addition being built there, but they were also concerned about taking up the green space because that area is used for soccer. And then just as reviewing this, I was thinking, Baltimore Field is gone, and for uses for soccer. And so I'm just with the caution that we're taking away green space here.
None of the addition will take any of the soccer field. It's going to the north end of the building along Ridgeway. There's a little
So that's
green
where
area.
right? But that's where their current playground is.
No, it's all, the playground is typically on the east side of the building, and there's also a play area directly south at the back side of the building as well. And of course, there's open space to the west as well on their site, but they will not affect the park whatsoever or change their existing playground.
So it's actually moving away from the park.
Correct. So if you look where the parking lot strip is, just south of that is where that green area is with the tree there. That's where that addition's going to sit.
Okay. But as far as the size concerns with that parking lot, because the parking there is pretty limited, and you're going to have a lot more traffic if you're doubling the number of kids and families that will be served by that facility.
Looks like Mr. Trost would like to speak to some of that.
Yes, Steve Trost with AHTS Architects representing Community United Child Care Centers. To answer your question about the parking, that is all owned by Community United Child Care Centers and the drive and everything going in, and it's private property at this point. Although they do allow the soccer teams that practice there to use that after their 5 o'clock or 5:30 closing time. That's still their own private property right there. So, but they have continued to allow them to use it and haven't had a problem to this point.
Parking?
Parking.
As far as the parking, we looked at the calculations and the amount of parking based on the existing and the addition is will be accommodated by the existing parking that's on site right now. In other words, it was built oversized back when it was a school, and for a child care center, it's within the requirements.
This is Schrader with staff. I'll just note what the parking requirement for a daycare center is. It's one space for each 2 employees on the maximum shift, plus 1 space for each 15 attendees. So I have not seen the information on the number of employees and the anticipated maximum number of attendees, but I would anticipate that parking lot should be more than sufficient to meet that requirement.
This is Thornsberry. Eric, so would you use that parking calculation for the sites individually? Because now there'll be 2, even though they'll probably be joined together. But there was a requirement for the existing daycare. Now, is that duplicated for the new daycare?
It's an addition to the existing building, so we would look at the entire site, existing and proposed, and determine, based on the number of employees of maximum shift and the number highest expected or highest allowed attendee occupant, what that number would be, and use that to calculate the parking requirement.
So should that be added in the conditions of subject to?
It certainly can. It's a requirement of the ordinance, whether it's a condition or not. But it certainly does not hurt to just kind of put it as a condition, essentially as a reminder to the applicant that we've got to make sure that they meet parking requirement.
Okay. Is there any other questions for staff?
I'll make one note. I'm going to abstain from this vote as a representative of the Child Care Center.
Okay. Okay, at this time we should receive, For those of you who wish to speak for or against this request, we would ask that you please come to the microphone and identify yourself by name and address. The members of the commission should also identify themselves before speaking to the microphones. Okay, seeing none coming to the podium, I would ask for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Leah and seconded that we close this hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. And the motion passes. Okay, we turn it over to the commission for final thoughts, discussion, and or motion. I don't know if this helps. This is Tackett. I am trying to remember the requirements for Iowa law, but I do remember California Title 22 requirements for additional children, and this is 8,700 square feet. We take away the facilities for the kitchen and staff, and it's just area for children. It used to be a 35 square foot for indoor per child, and the ratio was 75 square feet outside per child. So if that gives an idea, and when it's been years since I've seen the Iowa codes, but I think they're very similar. So if we're looking a lot. And another note is because you remember, I used to teach your son. This is one of the very few centers that got certification, and that is not an easy process. That means you have to be doing a lot of things right. So that I went over there when they got certified and congratulate them. There are very few child care centers nationwide that even get certification. So I was, very pleased to see this. So that was just my 2 cents as far as trying to figure out how many more children. That can give sort of a ballpark. I don't think we're looking at 100, but we're looking at pretty close. Maybe 50 that would service.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I think it was somewhere around. I think we're around 80.
Okay.
75 to 80 children additional.
Okay.
In there.
Other thoughts, discussion, or motion?
I move that we approve the site plan amendment to the R1CZ conditional zoning district located at 3610 Amesboro Avenue for the construction of an 8,700 square foot addition to the north end of the existing child care facility, and it be approved for the following reasons: that the site in question would appear to provide sufficient space to meet all required regulations, including setbacks, drainage, landscaping, screening, and parking requirements. 2, the site in question can be served by existing utilities in the area, subject to the extension of sidewalks along all street frontages, which include Amesboro Avenue and Ridgemont Road.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Jerry and seconded that we approve the request for a site plan amendment to the R1CZ conditional zoning district located at 3610 Amesboro Avenue with requirements stated in our packet and subject to extend sidewalks along all frontages, which include Amesboro Avenue and Ridgemont Road.
I added parking.
And parking, yes. Okay. Is there any discussion? And we have one abstention. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. And the motion passes. Okay, our last item on our agenda for this evening are discussion items. Do we have any of those? I have one. It was mentioned in actually on page 10. Just out of curiosity, I know I came on in 2011. We were going through the packet and rezoning, and I've gotten all the packets you give me, and all the kind of get me in the loop and look through things. So I did look through the future land use map. If I can remember right, we went through that. That was before I was on. That's almost like early 2000s. I mean, it's been a while, hasn't it? And I noticed here that it said that the area that we're looking at was designated as parks, open spaces, schools, airport, government facilities. But there's a big difference between government facilities, airports, and parks. So is that just like anything could go there, or is it time to review? Because it seems like there's a lot that's just kind of gone a little different direction. I'm wondering, how close are we being to that future land use map as a guide, or is it time to review it?
This is Anderson with staff. That designation is generally for existing parks and all that, and it's shown as green on the land use map, so it's a lot different than any other color on there. But you're right, there's a lot of things covered under that one color. Generally, it's all public type land. The second part of your question, we just hired Intercog about 2 weeks ago to update the comprehensive plan. As a part of that, they'll obviously be updating the future land use map as well. We anticipate that'll take about a 2-year process. There will be a subcommittee of people to serve on the comprehensive plan update, and there will also be regular updates to the Planning Commission as they're going through it section by section.
And can we recommend someone from this committee to sit on that?
You certainly can.
I mean, I would like to see Lynn be active in that involvement.
I'd be willing to, if that's sure. And from Intercog, because I'm familiar with it, isn't that like different agencies around our area, or are they outside?
Intercog is a regional planning agency that specializes in doing comp plan updates. They primarily work with a lot of CDBG money for housing for outside of the smaller communities as well. They do a lot of disaster work and all that, but they're primarily I think it's a 9-county planning agency, and they helped us with our first comp plan, so we thought they would be good for the update.
Thank you.
I didn't bring my calendar in, but I just wanted to ask, in November, is our meeting scheduled for vote day?
We're meeting on the second Tuesday, so we're not on election night.
They have it on the bottom here. On our first page, it says November 10th.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So you will have 2 great Tuesdays in a row.
Super duper.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so we move by Leah and seconded to adjourn our meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.